Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am Warden Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today's video I am going to be continuing my coverage of Mothership, the sci-fi horror RPG. And this is put out by Tuesday Night Games. And I'm going to continue my coverage, so this will be episode 2, as you can see by the graphics. And I'm looking at the player survival guide. And today I'm going to focus on making stat checks, saves, and panic checks. And then this will be a continuing series of videos until I have completed the survival guide, the player's guide, and then covered in good detail the warden's manual as well, so that you can have a full understanding of how this game system works, and whether or not it's something that you would certainly look to play, run, or even purchase if you haven't purchased it already. So without further ado, let's start taking a look at the guide itself. So so here's the section that we're in. We're on page 18, stat checks and saves. And I'm going to expand this view so you can see it as well, maybe not that much, so you can see it as well and read along. So stat checks. Whenever you want to do something and the price for failure is high, roll a d100 and attempt to roll lower than your most relevant stat. This is called a stat check. If you roll less than your stat, you succeed. Otherwise, you fail and gain 1 stress. A roll of 90 through 99 is always a failure. Your stats. You have 4 main stats which represent your ability when acting under extreme pressure. You have strength, speed, intellect, and combat. In order to avoid certain dangers or trauma, sometimes you need to roll a d100 lower than your most relevant stat. This is called a save. If you roll less than your save is succeeding. Otherwise, you fail and gain 1 stress. Roll of a 90 through 99 is always a failure. I'll slow down a little bit. I'm reading fast. Your saves. You have 3 saves which represent your ability to withstand different kinds of trauma. You have saves for sanity, you have saves for fear, and you have saves for body. And so those are kind of the 3 types of damage, if you will, that your character can suffer. So they can suffer, a damage or stress to their sanity. They could be inflicted with fear, and obviously they can take body damage as well. What is your high score? High score is a record of the number of sessions your character has survived. It doesn't affect gameplay at all. It's just a fun number to track. Your warden may have other ideas on how to use it in-game, like a reputation stat, or as a spendable luck resource. Don't stress about your high score too much. The average high score of a character is about 4. Just focus on staying alive. You'll beat that in no time. All right. So there's kind of a almost metagame kind of stat that you as a player have for your character, and I would highly recommend that this does become a resource that you can expend. Like a luck resource, because that really does encourage, I think, some of the best kind of gameplay that can take place at the table. You can give it for a variety of reasons. I would focus on giving it for, thinking outside the box, really great role play, or, just getting that real clutch roll that really changes the impact of the entire scene that the player characters are in. But anyway, let's move on to modifying stat checks and saves. There are three things that can modify the outcome of a stat check or save: advantage and disadvantage, critical successes and failures, and skills. Whenever you are making a roll of any kind, stat check, save, panic check, damage, and the character has a situational advantage, like assistance from someone else, roll twice and take the best result. When at a situational disadvantage, like poor weather or bad visibility, roll twice and take the worst result. Advantage is denoted with a +1 or a plus, disadvantage with a minus. Body saves plus means make a body save with advantage. If the character has both advantage and disadvantage, they cancel out. Critical successes and failures. Whenever you roll doubles, a double 0, a 66, a 22, a 33, whatever, on the stat check or save, you have rolled a critical. If the roll is successful, it is now a critical success, and something very good happens. If it is a failure, it is now a critical failure and something bad happens. And furthermore, you must make a panic check. A roll of double 0 is always a critical success. A roll of 99 is always a critical failure. You know, when I first read this and I was thinking about it, I was like, there's a much better way of doing this. And that is just to say your top 5% or your top 5% best roll that you can have on a D100, and your bottom 5 on a D100 are your critical successes and critical failures. The average here really breaks down to roughly the same, because when I calculated it out, to get a critical success, it's roughly, if you take it, all of those, it's roughly an 8% chance, but you might not have a stat that's high to include, let's say, a 66, a 66, a 77, an 88. 99 is always a failure, right? So, and likewise, on the bottom end, those are not, those are always critical successes, right? The lower and or at least successes. I would have done, like I said, the top 5 and the bottom 5 percentiles. And so, if you roll a 95 or higher, except for the 100, they could still leave that as a surprise critical success. I would have just done it that way instead of, I rolled doubles and is that now, was that still a success? It was just something that just struck me at the time. Anyway, skills. If a character has a skill that is relevant to the task at hand, you can add the skills bonus to the stat or save before making your roll, giving you a higher number to roll under. Calling for a check. All right, so this is a scenario, right? So the warden says, okay, so you hear that screeching sound coming from down the corridor. What do you do? Cleo responds, can I open up the airlock door quietly and try to sneak out before it notices me? All right. Now, I know someone like Shauner is going to come in here, who's another YouTuber out there, and he'll say, this is Mother May I. Just state what your character is doing. Don't ask the question if they can do it. Leave it up to the warden to tell them what the result is. Even if it's a failure, that's fine. Warden responds, it's jammed up pretty bad right now. You'll need to make a strength check. Failure risks making a lot of noise and drawing the creature's attention. I wouldn't even said that. I wouldn't say what the consequence of failure is. I would just tell them that it's making a strength check at disadvantage since it's so jammed, and leave it at that. Don't tell them what happens before they failed. Let them know what happens when they failed. Cleo, I've got the industrial equipment skill and a crowbar. Does that help? Yeah, you see, so if you said it's with disadvantage, then she responds with, well, I have the skill and this piece of equipment. Then you say, all right, now you no longer have disadvantage. Very easy. Warden, definitely. You can add your bonus skills. Your skills bonus in the crowbar will give you an advantage on the roll. You see, so I would have just had it, either the skills negate the first, the first disadvantage, and then the advantage, the crowbar gives you an advantage. I don't know if I would quite wipe out the disadvantage that easily. I'd say the combination would just make it a straight up roll. But anyway, Cleo, okay, I'm going to give it. I've got a 35 strength and a bonus of 10 from my industrial, so anything under a 45, right? That's right. Cleo rolls a 66 and a 43. Phew, just made it. All right, so now she didn't have a critical success because her success roll was a 43. If it was a 44, she would have had a critical success because it was below the 45. Now her first roll was ignored because she was rolling with advantage. Her second roll was the 43. Now, if her second roll failed as well, then I would have hit her with a critical, a failure, a critical failure. The unknown horrors of the cosmos and the vast emptiness of space take a toll on a person. Stress is a measure of that toll and how it subtly affects you, bringing you closer to the brink of panic. While stress by itself doesn't do anything, the higher your stress is, the more likely you are to panic. And the more stress you have when you panic, the worse your panic is likely to be. How do I gain stress? You gain 1 point of stress every time you fail a stat check or save. Occasionally, certain locations or entities can automatically give you stress from interacting with or witnessing them. Your minimum stress starts at 2, and based on events that happen in game, such as certain panic check results, it can be increased or decreased. The maximum stress you can have is 20. Any stress you take over 20 instead reduces the most relevant stat or save by that amount. So let's say you take 25 points of stress, then 5 points is going to come from your stats or something else, or your save chance. How do I relieve stress? You can relieve stress by resting in a relatively safe place to do so. To do this, make a resting save using your worst save. All right, so it's making it like, it's almost like you're making your rest save at a disadvantage because you're using your lowest save stat available. If you succeed, reduce your stress by 1 digit rolled. If you rolled a 24 under your worst save of 30, reduce your stress by 4. If you fail, you gain 1 stress instead. Wait, so if you succeed, reduce your stress by 1 digit rolled. If you rolled a 24 and your worst save is 30, reduce your stress by 4. Why isn't that reduced by 6? If you fail, you gain 1 stress. That should be by 6. You rolled 6 under. Weird. All right. Players can gain advantage on their rest saves by participating in consensual sex, recreational drug use, a night of heavy drinking, prayer, or any other suitable leisure activity. Unsafe locations may incur disadvantage on rest saves at the warden's discretion. Stress is typically not relieved during Kairos sleep. Finally, if you have more time, you can take shore leave and convert your stress into improv saves. They give you a little trigger warning here. Get everyone's consent at the table before dealing with sex in your game. That's handled in session 0, I guess. I'm not going to read through the example again. So panic checks. So stress, damage, and emotional wear and tear eventually bring a character to their breaking point. When that happens, there's a chance they panic. You determine this by making a panic check. What is a panic check? A panic check determines whether the character can keep their cool under extreme pressure. To make a panic check, roll a panic die. It's a d20. And attempt to roll greater than your current stress. If you roll less than or equal to your current stress, you fail and you look up the result on the panic table. Okay, so if you have a panic 6, all right, I thought this was randomized when I first read it, but now reading through it a second time, it's not a random check. So let's operate on, you have a 4 or a 5, let's say a 5. All right, when to make a panic check. You must make a panic check anytime you roll a critical failure on a stat check or save. Additionally, the warden may call for panic checks at any other appropriate time, including but not limited to watching another crew member die, witnessing more than one crew member's panic at the same time. Whenever your ship rolls a critical failure, everyone on board makes a panic check. Encounter a strange and horrifying entity for the first time, when all hope is lost and death feels certain, and whenever you, the player, want to. I guess if you're really role-playing your character and you want to test your own panic ability, you can do that. Conditions. Some results of panic tables are so severe that they leave a lasting impression on you. These are called conditions. And they affect you until you are able to treat them. That's going to be covered under the medical section on page 34, and we'll go to that. Another trigger warning about panic checks and agency. Yes, a player could lose control of their character if their character goes into panic. So let's see. I said I was going to go with 5, right? So let's say they failed on a 5 panic check. So this character is going to suffer cowardice, right? So coward, gain a new condition. You must make a fear save to engage in violence, otherwise you flee. All right. So, and this is where they're talking about the loss of player agency. If your character is suddenly struck with fear and they flee, you no longer have control over your character in those few moments. I would allow the following round, or maybe 2 or whatever. Let's say if they're dealing with a 5, I would say for 4 rounds, because the first one counts, doesn't count towards tailing it off. So for an additional 4 rounds, the current round that you were in plus another 4 rounds, you are going to be fleeing, or looking for some place to hide or whatever. And I would allow for an additional check later on, unless somebody calms them down and there's talk about that, to get back into the action again. So I would give them some checks thereafter to see if they recover faster than the 4 rounds, let's say. But you can see down here, the most extreme is if you have a 20 stress and you fail that roll, and your character retires. Your character's done. So skills. We're going to leave it there, I believe, because I don't think I was going to go into skills. No. So there you have it. So there you have making stat checks, making saving throws, and making panic checks. And as you can see, there's it's an interesting system. I might have made a tweak here or there, or do a homebrew tweak here or there to just take out the, rolling the doubles for determination and just going on the high end and the low end of a D100, or whatever your characters, let's say if you have a 50, well then, then on the top end of it, it's a not a success, and at the bottom end, it's a, um, I would say that like the top 5 points is your critical failure, and the bottom five is your critical success. It's a roll under system, so your critical successes should be at the lower end of that, just in my opinion, as well as if it's a roll under system, then your critical failure should be at the very upper end, and the less skilled you are, the more chances there are of having a critical failure, and the less chances there are of you having a critical success. It kind of tightens it down. Other systems use that kind of a system, like Conan 2D20 from Modifius. It has what your character's focus is for a particular skill, and if they roll below that focus, they gain more momentum. It's like rolling a critical success if they get below that number, and that number rises as they gain skill. I think that would have been probably a better way to go than this very random. Maybe it's more exciting. Hey, I rolled a double three. So it's that kind of unexpected thing to happen. And maybe that's what they're shooting for. Other than that, I like the system so far. I like the way that there's a there's an incentive, or there's a bonus for making your saves and making your checks and so on. And I like the fact that it is very nuanced, where the warden, the game master, can award different bonuses, or allow for rolling advantage, or create situations where they're at disadvantage unless they get a lot of teamwork going to overcome those, and possibly even shift it towards advantage rolls as well. So I do like some of the aspects of that, and it's so far it's reading as a pretty solid system. Now, this is a system that when it first came out, I mean, there was a lot of hype around it, and a lot of people really enjoying it. And I believe this came out before Modifius or Free League. I think it was Free League actually came out with the Aliens RPG. So this was kind of like one of the forerunners. I know there's other ones out there, but of recent history, of the last 5 years, let's say, one of the first or most well received sci-fi horror RPGs out there. Like I said, there's others out there, I know, but this one was like the buzz. There was a buzz about this, and I could start to see why some of these game mechanics really do kind of lend into the genre and the theme of the game pretty well. So going to continue covering it and going through the next stages. I'll spend some time on skills and break this down. I'm going to go through the entire book, so going through this whole thing here, and I have my each of my episodes already tagged up and ready to go. So be on the lookout for those over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to mix it up a little bit with some other content, especially throughout this week, and then later on into next week I'll have even more. But I hope you enjoyed it. I just got something in my eye. Sorry about that. So I hope you enjoyed that a little bit more. I'm testing a few new things here with this actual presentation. So changed up my thumbnail a little bit. Someone had responded to change my ratio. So you can see I've changed my ratio a little bit more on this particular screen here. So you can see that I've made it around a 60-40 ratio between you seeing me and then what I'm actually covering during the time. I don't know why they want to see more of me, but there you have it. I also changed the thumbnail that I'm going to be using, because I guess just showing the cover of what I've been doing, like this would normally be my thumbnail that you see on the left-hand side, and so now it's actually a different thumbnail. Me holding the book in hand. I guess that's and then good titles and everything on it. So I guess that's what the person was also suggesting, and I've seen others suggest that as well, is to have your thumbnails kind of show you in them as well. So, I'm never going to do the old soy face. Not going to do that kind of a thing, but certainly trying to just make it where the channel is, catches your eye a little quicker. I always look at I look at my stats every once in a while. I shouldn't say always. I look at my stats every once in a while, and I see that I have a lot of people passing through. 5,000, new unique viewers, at any given month or so, and right now my subscribers to passers through is about 40% subscribers returning and 60% passing through. And I hear that's pretty much uniform across the board. So whatever we can, if I can get it to like a 50-50, that would be great. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. As always, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like. Please leave your comments. I really do value comments, virtually more so than anything else, because it allows me to see where you're coming from. I take your suggestions, I listen to my comments, and I try to make tweaks or whatever, when possible. Leave your suggestions of games that you want me to take a look at. And, as always, just keep on coming in and engaging. And, I really enjoy talking to you, even if it's kind of disconnected just through comments. But, I really do like to hear what you're thinking about. And so that's my greatest, desire, is to see what you all want to see on the channel, and make those adjustments as you ask for. Like I said, if possible, I'm certainly willing to do so. So you'll have a great day, and be on the lookout. There's going to be another video later on this afternoon. I told you what was going to this was supposed to be last night. This Mothership was supposed to be last night, and then I just got a book in the mail last night, so I'm going to do a physical copy review of that book. I'll reveal that later on in the video, and so anyway, a lot coming up over these next couple of weeks as far as finishing out the month of May. I expect it to be a very, very heavy content month. So make sure you subscribe and hit that bell so that you'll get the alert. Take care. Thanks for stopping in.